All right, everyone, so let's go ahead and get started with this painting of the 50th anniversary pin. All right, so I'm happy with my design. I'm ready to start. You have some options here. So the actual pin that we have here is a daytime sky. You can choose to make it a daytime sky. You can choose to make it a nighttime sky. For the purpose of this actual painting, I'm going to choose it to be a daytime sky. So I'm going to kind of do a little bit of blending. So blending is when you color mix something and you show both the beginning and the end of both colors. All right, so let's start. I'm going to take my paintbrush. I put it in the water. I get a little bit hydrated because you want to have that paintbrush a little bit hydrated with some water. Dry it off so there's no clumps of water happening. And then I'm going to pull from my white pile. So literally I'm pulling it, I'm just coming from the edge and I'm scooping it down. So I'm going to apply this directly to the top. So a lot of times people ask me, is it lighter at the top? Is it lighter at the bottom? It honestly depends on the day, the time of day. So time of day, middle of the day, it's going to be lighter at the top. Towards the end of the day, it's going to be darker at the top. So then wash out your paintbrush. I just laid a little bit of white on the top, and I'm going to go straight into that blue after you wash out that paintbrush. So if your blue is too dark, what you might want to do is you might want to scoop a little bit of that, put it near your white, wash out your paintbrush. Good habits are to hold your water cup as you do it, but honestly, as I'm doing this demonstration, not really great about doing that. But what I'm doing is I'm just pulling paint and mixing it over here. So what I'm basically trying to do is create the other color that I'm going to mix my white with. So I need to make sure that it's not too heavy of a blue, otherwise it's going to look like a dark stormy day. So I'm just mixing. I take a little bit of white at a time. I kind of just mix the paint around. When I'm happy, I'll wipe off the extra off my paintbrush, and I'll be ready to go. So I am going to paint right up to the edge of my tree line that I created. I like to use my pinky as a kickstand. See how I have it kind of out? And when you're holding your paintbrush, you want to hold your paintbrush kind of either, if it has a handhold, hold it at the handhold area, or you want to hold it at the back of the ferrule. So the ferrule is that metal part of your paintbrush that you're keeping your paintbrush, that's keeping all like the hairs of your paintbrush together. So painted that. And basically what we're doing right now is what's called the outline fill in. So you're outlining around your object and then you're filling it in. We haven't started to do that technique of blending yet, where it will make it look like the colors are mixing together and it's an actual sky and not just all one color. So we'll get there in just a second as we outline around the Capitol building. And if you make a mistake as you're outlining, the really awesome thing about paint is that you can totally paint over something later on. You just gotta let it dry and then you can fix your mistake later on. Don't stress about it right now. Just have fun. And if your paintbrush doesn't exactly follow your tree line, well, trees are organic. So make it look like an organic shape without any hard lines and you'll be fine. All right, so I'm going to outline around the Washington Monument. Take more paint as you need it. Okay, so now we're just about ready to start blending. So what's going to happen is I'm going to take this and I'm going to start to bring it up into that white. And what's going to happen is those two paint colors are going to start to mix. Sorry, I'm just going to, because that white paint is still wet. You might be like, that's not really working for me, because if you took a long time, your white might actually be dry. It's kind of cold in my room right now, so it's drying a lot faster. So watch and see what you can do. So I've got that part on. And again, you want to work quickly while everything's still wet. I'm going to wash out my paintbrush, wipe it off. It's not a perfect wash, but that's okay. I'm going to go back into that pure white, and I'm going to lay that pure white directly on top. And now I'm going to slowly start to bring it down. And I'm going all the way across as I do it because I want to mix those colors together. I want to see the white, I want to see the blue, but I also want to see that lighter color that they create together. Sometimes adding a touch of water to your paintbrush instead of drying it off can help. So again, a little touch of water, pull up that white, and then I'm just going to mix it in. So you can do as much or as little blending as you want to. Just make it so that you're happy with what time of day you've made your picture. If you want to do a nighttime sky, think about blending together purple and dark blue. That makes a really nice nighttime sky. All right, so you could add clouds, you could do things like that, but I'm actually not going to do that right this second. I want to give that a chance to dry. There's a lot of paint on top of that paper that's wet, so I want to give it an opportunity to dry out. Okay, so these buildings, in the picture it's golden, but it might go more for a gray color. If you do have black and you want to just make straight gray like that, go for it. If you mix all three colors, primary colors together, it will make gray. But what I'm actually going to do is the stone is a little bit yellowish when I've been to the Washington Monument, so I'm going to take a little bit of that yellow. I'm going to take a good amount of the white. Try not to get any of the white areas that have any blue mixed into them. I'm going to mix that together. And then I'm going to take a touch of red, just like the smallest amount, to almost turn it a little bit orange. A little bit more. And that's going to become my Washington Monument color. Again, if you have gray and you just want to use, or if you have black and you just want to mix white to it, go ahead and do that. So again, I'm going to outline, and you might be like, well, why are we starting from the back? So whenever you're painting, you always want to start with what's farthest away and then slowly work closer. So I outline around, I paint that in, and then I can go back and do my Washington Monument, or my Capitol building. I'm actually going to wait to do my Capitol building because I've got this huge glob of paint right here that I want to let dry. So I'll come back and paint that. Okay, so let's talk about these green areas. So we're going to have to do some more color mixing. And we're going to make green. So to make green, you need mostly yellow. I'm going to take a little bit of blue because the blue is a very heavy saturated color. So you need more of your lighter color, less of your darker color. And then you can just start to lay it in there. So depending on how flat or realistic you want this to look, you get to decide how much actual paint or mixing of colors or painting techniques that you want to do on this. I'm going to show you a lot, and you get to choose what works for your picture. So I don't like to fully mix my colors. I think it's visually interesting when there's a little bit of a variation in them. So I've got that painted there. And then I'm going to make it a little visually interesting for me. So I'm going to take a little bit of that just straight yellow, and I'm going to do what's called dabbing, where I'm just kind of like pressing against the paintbrush, adding some texture to that top area. And I'm adding the lighter color to the top, and I'll add a little bit of the darker to the bottom. And then I'll take some of that straight blue, mix it in with the green we've already made, and then I will sporadically add some of that dabbing technique to make it look more like trees and less like just a block of green. Okay, so notice I didn't do it on this side yet because I still do want to do my Capitol building before I do that green, but I'm going to keep that color hydrated and ready to go. And I'm going to mix and make a slightly darker color to do this patch of green down here. And I have a little too much blue. And this part is green here as well. And then again, outline, let that flat, if you have a flat paintbrush, let the flat paintbrush do the work. Fill it in. If you're not confident in your straight lines, take a second, step back from your work, check and see if they look straight enough, if you're happy with them. And then again, if you want to make it look more realistic, you can come back and instead of doing the flat edge of the paintbrush sideways, so horizontally, you can actually do it vertically and get a little bit of grass texture. You don't have to make it super detailed, but the stuff that's closer to you, so closer to these edges, is visually closer to you, so you'd be able to see it, it'd be larger, more detailed. But where stuff gets farther away, if you slowly get less and less detail, it should slowly get less and less detailed. So you'd be able to see less and less of the variation in grass. So I can add some more of those highlights over here. Okay, so we'll do the same thing on this side, and then I'll paint the Capitol building as well. And then we're going to take a break and let this dry because we are going to be doing a lot of white in here and we don't want the white and the green to mix when we go ahead and paint it. So when we come back, I'll have these areas painted the same as this and then we'll see what's next.